Fred, great to have you with us on Crypto Weekly today. To kick it off, really, can you maybe share with our audience what are the key developments going on within the Cardano ecosystem that they need to know?
Sure. From a very high level, we always spoke about how do we transform the economic system of the world to go on a blockchain. The second thing we thought about is politics. So how do we do a new type of governance? And the third was really about the community. How do we change the social fabric? The social fabric, we already have about 8 million people interacting with Cardano on a weekly basis. We now have over 8 million different types of assets and asset representation on Cardano. And what's happening right now, which is super exciting, is we are changing governance, not just for Cardano, but for the world, by having a new tricameral model on Cardano. And that was the last hard fork we just did a couple of weeks back. And now we are the blockchain who's been running the longest with no downtime, and we keep changing the code and we keep adding the products to it. So we have so much happening. It's just exciting.
So, Frederik, can you share with us how blockchain can change industries worldwide? Because this is a main topic that we're seeing globally. It's been talked about for now a couple of months, maybe years. So to what extent do you think that industries, different industries, will really take benefit from using blockchain technologies?
Yeah, so what's the interesting part here is it's coming from other exponential technologies. It's actually not going to be blockchain alone. So what's happening right now is that we see the first generations of AI, the large language models, the ChatGPTs and Geminis and so on. And they help us a little bit, but they're trained on a very weak data set. And what we see now is that the next generation of AI, for instance, is going to be AI agents. It's going to be a digital twin of you, like an amazingly beautiful digital twin who knows exactly what you did all the way back to inception. Because those data points actually already exist, but you don't have access to it. And to ensure that you can get access and benefit out of that, we need to change the model from privacy, that you become the owner and the controller of that, because the data privacy regulation around the world disable us from doing that, because the fines are so big because they're trying to protect you. So for us to actually get the maximum benefit out of this digital twin, right, we need to ensure that you can safeguard that data through a self-sovereign identity model. And that's actually where the regulation also is going. So as we see other technologies getting more mature and more adoption, we see that the foundational layer is going to be a blockchain layer. And that only works if you're on top of privacy and identity, and that you can ensure that the layer underneath doesn't go down. It has to always work. It has to be a foundational stone. Like when you build a house, if the foundation is really bad, you have to tear it down and build it again. On blockchain, it cannot work like that.
So how do you think it's going to work? You mentioned obviously a self-sovereign model. Do you believe it's going to be with a lot of zero knowledge proof elements of it? It's going to be with external agents and oracles. How do you see this shaping up over the next couple of years?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is not only did we just bring governance to the Cardano stack, right? We actually also enabled something called BLS signatures, which is the first primitives for CK rollups on Cardano. So here in Dubai, for instance, we're already working in that direction. So we work with the Dubai police here with a very interesting use case. So to solve global crime, but not financial crime, we're talking about real crime, talking about guns and all those kind of things, right? So when you have a crime scene, what you really want to get to is a situation that you can figure out if the bullet who's in the wall or in the victim, God forbid it, right? That you can actually go into a global database and figure out if that has been registered somewhere else.
Wow.
But in some countries, like here, where the digital transformation is so further ahead of everybody else, right? And it's a very small, UAE is a small country, right? When you think about big countries who don't register the guns or don't register that kind of biometric footprints, you have an asymmetric relationship where a global database is comprised with very little data from the big players, and then they're asking for all the data from UAE. So what we designed is a one-way hash algorithm, which allows you to share data without actually giving away the privacy and the control. And that is what we're going to see, or not just with CK rollups, but we already see it with one-way hash algorithms going into rollup solutions. So what people thought was we needed rollups because scalability was bad, but what in reality is it needs to unlock the enterprise use cases. So what I spoke about with the AI agent was an individual use case, and we're going to have exactly the same on the enterprise side. And we can already do that on Cardano, which is amazing.
So, Frederik, that leads me to a very important question. How do you ensure true decentralization of your network at Cardano?
Yeah, so decentralization is a scale, and people need to understand that as well, which is very hard. And what we do is we said, okay, listen up, we measure it. So why don't we define the 6 factors, and then we get the global academic universities in the world to basically measure decentralization based on those factors. So an example of that is the software, is the control mechanism, is the consensus, is the hardware, the tokenomics, right? And you can actually, when you start measuring that in an academic sense, academia has this beautiful thing that they can compare apples to apples, even though it's an apple and an orange, right? And then you have a standard, and it gets peer-reviewed at these big, events where the academics come together and shoot themselves down, right? And then you come out with a system that we've done now with the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, where we are measuring global layer 1s against each other from a decentralization aspect. But be aware, decentralization is not always better than some kind of centralization. So what we've done, for instance, to illustrate that, is that we created a version of Doom, the first-person shooter game. And in one day, we got 19 million transactions on the blockchain, because every frame of Doom, so every time you move a computer frame down when you go down the corridors, right, is a transaction on the blockchain. And normally, this is actually more than many layer 1s do in a whole year. And we anchored that back into Cardano. So by using a really good architecture and what's called isomorphic state channels, which is what Ethereum tried to do for a long time, called Plasma, we now have the ability to take the best of both worlds. To have a sort of a permission centralized part where we have channels, but anchor it into the global decentralized protection of the global layer 1. And a lot of people don't realize that the technology is so far. And the beauty is all of this is open source. So we're giving away to all other layer 1s, because our hope is they will do the same. And with more people doing the same, we will see more enterprises, from healthcare to e-gaming to productions to law enforcement, getting the benefits of blockchain. So
you're mentioning, it's open source and more people can do the same. But obviously, there's a lot of debate. We have all these different layer 1s in the crypto ecosystem. How do you see the landscape in a couple of years? Do you believe we're going to continue having this wide variety of them, or there'll be some kind of consolidation with different use cases for each different layer 1s?
I do think there will be some specialization, right? So maybe we get a global law enforcement specific layer 1 with a CK roll-up solution or something like that. But when you think about what is happening today in the world, what's happening is that, collaborations who's been going on for 100 years suddenly doesn't exist anymore. Old partnerships and things, we're seeing a new world structure emerging. And with the AI, we can't trust any data anymore. There's already more data and more pictures generated than there's been in the whole, since we could create pictures, right, has been generated the last year just using AI. So the trust in data is going to completely go away. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to have very large decentralized blockchains who have to be interoperable with each other. And then the users will pick in their industry verticals what makes sense in terms of the trade-off of scalability, security, but also features and usability on the scale, as I said. And that's the beauty about what Cardano can do with not just partner chains, but also with these isomorphic state channels and roll-ups and other things. We just took the whole Bitcoin blockchain and put it on Cardano in one block. Isn't that amazing, right?
This is really amazing.
Specifically because the Bitcoin blockchain keeps evolving, right? It keeps adding blocks.
Yeah.
And how do you take something who keeps adding blocks and put it into one block on Cardano, right? That's the power of research-driven Cardano.
Thank you so much, Frederik, for this very insightful interview. Frederik Gregaard, CEO of Cardano Foundation. Thank you so much for being with us at Crypto Weekly.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your great work around blockchain and crypto.